Hi folks, hope you're doing well. Late night video tonight. What I want to do on this one is no bands or anything like that. We're going to be going through my tone that I use in my band. This is a tone that I've crafted myself, just playing it by ear, seeing how it goes, messing with the dials, and eventually got round to something that sounded good to my ear and sounded good in the mixes, more importantly. So yeah, I want to just run through this. I want to go fairly fast because there's quite a few VSTs in here. I'm going to roughly explain what they do, but I'm not going to be messing around with them. I'm just going to be showing you how they work. I've got a couple of guys asking me questions about the tone, so I want to get this out there, help them out, and help these guys start crafting their own tone. Right, let's get this up on the screen. Okay, so here is my tone with all the different VSTs. I use a bunch to actually get to the final tone that I want, and there's actually going to be even more on top of this once you get to the mastering stage and pulling all the music together. We're going to run through this pretty quickly, give you an idea of how to, what each part is doing to the tone. You can get all of these for absolutely free. It's not going to cost you a penny, so you can get on this. Obviously, you don't want to copy exactly what I've done with my tone unless you really like the sound of it. That would be all right. This is just giving you an idea of how I got to my tone, so give you an idea of how to get to your own tone. Hopefully there'll be something a bit different. What I've got set up here is just one of the riffs from one of my tracks. It's a tremmy riff, which is the kind of stuff that I know one of my viewers is trying to get right, some death metal-y type of stuff. So this is what it sounds like, double tracked. And remember guys, when you double track your guitars, it's going to sound very different to when it's just a single track. Here they are double tracked. So as you can hear, we've got a nice fuzzy tone. It's kind of a peavy tone is what it's meant to be replicating. It's a nice fuzzy tone, but it's quite a tight tone so that you can hear each individual trem pick when you're doing even the faster stuff as well. But very fuzzy, very thick, that's what I like. Right, how do I get to this? Well, what we're going to do now is we're just going to go to the single track. This is what it sounds like on a single track, just for reference. Very bubbly, bubbling over kind of distortion. I like it. Right, so as you can hear though, it sounds very different to when it's double tracked, a lot thinner. Right, so what have we got? We've got a gate, Reaper gate. This is just to get rid of any noise that's coming through. As you can see, there is a bit of noise, even with nothing plugged in. My guitar's not plugged in or anything like that. There's a bit of noise just because of what we've got going on. So just bring your threshold above that noise, it will cut it out. Otherwise you'll hear this. Okay, bring it above. That's all you need to do, get rid of it. Now we've gone through these before, so I'm going to spend virtually no time on this. We've got our TSC 1.0. I turn the tone dial cranked all the way up just because I like a clearer tone. If you want it a bit darker, pull it down. Simple as that. Next up, this is a new pedal I've started to use. This is on top of the other pedal, and it just makes the sound a bit more kind of thicker, if you like. You can turn it on or off if you don't like it. Again, I've got the tone cranked up. Let's just hear the difference when we turn this on and off. See, this is what I was using before, and it works fine. It's quite flat compared to this. It really pushes it out. So that's a new one for me. Still always working on my tone, still always trying to craft your tone. Listen with your ears, does it sound good? Is what you've put on an improvement? If it is, move on to the next thing. Right, this next thing we've got, I haven't shown in any videos before, and unfortunately you can't actually get this online for free anymore. I'm not going to give out the files, I'm sorry about that guys, because I could get in trouble for that. But if you can find this online somewhere, it's called HYMB Drive. If you can find it, good on you. But as far as I know, it's not available. Don't worry, your tone won't be crap without it. Let's just A-B this so you can hear it on and off. Very subtle difference with this one. Just for me, it just brings out a bit more character in the tone. And what I've got here is just a little bit of drive taken off the mids, a little bit off the lows, and a bit on the highs, just to bring out that top end a little bit more. Very subtle, so don't worry that it won't be in your mix. Next up, we got the amp. This is the Nick Crow 8505. I've gone over this in a couple of videos now, so go back and watch those if you like. All I'm going to mention on this is when you're double tracking your guitars, when you're just jamming at home and you're jamming out, riffing out, trying to come up with ideas, you're going to want to have your gain probably cranked up to about 2 o'clock, okay? Because when you're just playing a single guitar, you need a lot of distortion for it to sound how it's going to sound when you double track the guitars. Because when you're double tracking the guitars, you've got twice as many guitars, the sound is twice as thick, plus you've panned them right out. So you need a lot less distortion and a lot less gain than you might think when you're actually got it in the mix. I bring it right the way down to about 10 o'clock. And you'll hear, you know, if I just play this, there's a big difference between here and here. It breaks up a lot more. You might think, oh, that isn't enough gain. But then when you've got the double tracked guitars, it's a lot thicker. So yeah. And you've got to make sure that both these performances are very tight. If they're not both tight, it won't sound as good as it could. Right, moving on, we've got our impulse. 2 off press high is what I always use. It's my go-to. You can use whatever one you like that sounds good to your ear. Just get an IR in here, because without this, it's going to sound like garbage. Next up, this is one thing I haven't gone into. I'm going to do a separate video on this all on its own, because it's a bit of a, you know, it's a bit of a rabbit hole all in itself. But this is a multi-band compressor. And all this is trying to do is compress different frequencies of your tone. I personally don't fully understand it 100%. I play it by ear, I mess with the dials, I bring it up and down, bring it left and right, and listen with my ear as to when it sounds good. And when it sounds good to my ear, that's when I want to stop. So what you're going to want to do is we'll just play this, give you an idea of what it can do. This is the kind of mids frequencies. You compress them or don't compress them, you're going to get different sounds. And you'll find there's a sweet spot. Yeah, that sounds good to the ear. I'll stick it there. Go for the real highs. A bit more than that. Starts to go dark again, so the sweet spot's around here somewhere. Sounds good, move on. You do that for all the bands. You can add as many bands as you want, it's not a problem. I use about 4, that's usually about right. But yeah, just mess with this. Don't worry if, you know, it doesn't sound good straight away. Just play with your ears, fiddle it up and down. You'll get there in the end. But I will do a video on this, so don't worry too much yet. This again is another compressor on top, and you might think, well, why are you doing 2 sets of compressors? As I said, this is how I got to the end of my tone, playing it by ear, adding some in, seeing if it sounded better. If it did, I kept it in and moved on. If it didn't, you know, I moved it out. As I say, I've just added this new pedal. That wasn't in there a couple of weeks ago. It hasn't been on any albums or anything like that. So my tone is evolving just like yours guys is. But what this is a very, very simple compressor. You've got your input, you've got your output, and you've got a couple of buttons at the bottom. What all this is doing is it's going to boost your signal and make everything just sound a bit more oomphed. Okay, so what you're going to want to do, we'll set it to how it is normally with none of the buttons on. This is how that sounds. Very quiet compared to what we just had. So we crank the output in. Right, but we don't want the output going into the red. So we'll bring it down a little bit. limit the input because that changes it slightly differently. See, pulling it out loses its guts. A bit more goofy. The deep button just brings out the lower end of it. The relaxed means that it's a slower compression, so it's not grabbing the compression as fast. Don't worry about these, you'll never touch those. And there you go, it's sounding better. Stop that. Here we've got our EQ. I've gone over this a little bit in another video. I'll be doing a whole video on EQing and how that's affecting your tone. All you need to know is cut a bit off the bottom, cut a bit off the top, and around the 2K to 6K mark, there's a bunch of frequencies in there that might not sound very good. Cut them out. Watch my other videos and watch some videos coming up and you'll get a better idea of what that is. That's a whole wormhole as well. Last up, this is a very cool idea that I found on the internet. Hadn't really thought about it before, but when you use it, it's very, very nice. I won't be able to fully show it you here because what this is for when you're chugging. So if you do a lot of chugging and you tune down, you've got lower tunings on your guitar, maybe using a 7 or an 8 string, and you're doing a lot of chug stuff, you're going to want to do this to your setup. And what this is it's an anti-chug noise kind of compressor. The VST I'm using is TDR Nova. Again, it's absolutely free. Everything I've shown you here is absolutely free. And what this is it's an EQ program, but it's got a built-in compressor as well. It's very, very nice. Got a lot of other uses as well, aside from this. But what you want to do is around the kind of, what have we got here? The 150 Hertz mark. It's about this area that you're going to find when you're chugging away, if you use the analyzer and you check out, when you're chugging away, I don't think it can really show it here, but these frequencies are going to be really pumping up. And you see that they're building up in this area. Now, what you can do here is if you add this compression bump, what happens is as the noise builds up in this frequency, it'll actually start to compress it down. And if you have quite a nice small ratio on it, just a 2-to-1 ratio, you'll see it pumping when you do the chugs, and it just makes your chugs a bit more clarity. So it'll go from kind of muffled, flappy sounding chugs to jun 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 jun, that nice tight, genty chug. I'll do a separate little video on this because it's a nice little trick to do. I'm not sure too many people know about it. And on top of that, we just got our limiter. We dump that on everything because we love this limiter. Very simple, just put it to -1, leave everything else and click the adaptive release because that button just seems to work very nicely. And there you go, that'll mean you end up with this tone. Then if you double track your guitars and you've got a decent performance, you've got a nice thick hand. And what you can even do on top of that, just to give you an idea of some mixing tips on top of that, if you duplicate that, so now you've got 2 versions of what we just had, but instead of having them panned 100% either way, we'll pan them 75% either way. Oh, sorry, did that one wrong. 75% either way. You will need to adjust the volume a little bit as well, but what you're going to want to do as well is go into the effects on these, and you're just going to want to slightly change the EQ on the amp. Maybe add a little bit more gain. We'll take away some mids, we'll take away some lows, and we'll make it a bit more higher on this one. Add a bit of power amp and take a little bit of volume off. Okay, just some minor adjustments. Go into the other one, make this one slightly different again. And why you want to do that is we'll keep the lows on this, we'll add some mids on this, and we'll take a bit of the highs on this one. The reason we're doing that is because by blending some slightly different tones, you get an even thicker tone at the end of it. But because they're all the bass tone, they all work together. So let's hear this, how this sounds. We'll mute what we just did. Mute that one. So that's just 2 sets of guitars. And that's 4 sets of guitars. And as you can hear, it's much beefier. If you had bass on top of that, if you had drums on top of that, if you had some synths on top of that as well, you're going to start to get a really big, in-your-face, high in the mix sound, which is what I look for. Okay, so hopefully that's been useful for you guys. I'm just going to quickly go into this. What you have also got on top of these is mastering. Once you've got your drums, once you've got your bass and your synth and all your parts of your music together, you've got your mastering on top of that. And I do add some more effects on top of there which do affect the tone quite a lot. In the end, it gives it the kind of tonality of the song rather than just the tone of the instrument. So not only are you affecting your tone as far as your guitar goes, you're affecting the whole tone of your piece of music. And what I've got here, and unfortunately not all of these are free, guys, so I don't want to go too much into these, but I've got another compressor on top of there. This is a compressor with an EQ in it. With the compression and everything, so you're going to want to EQ your stuff once you've got it all done. I've got an imager on here which lets me see the stereo spectrum, so I can get it a nice wide sound. You can change the width of everything and make it all different, which is very nice. I think you can pick this up for free. Ozone Imager, very nice. Isotope, they make very good VSTs. And then I've got the Isotope Mastering Essentials, and this thing makes a big difference to the sound. And unfortunately, guys, this thing isn't free, but it did come with my DAW software, so there you go. But if you have a look at it, it's got a compressor in there, it's got a room simulator in there where you can change the width and the wet and dry mix and loads of stuff. It's got a valve EQ in there where you can just add different bits and bobs. It's got a limiter on it and everything else, limiter and saturation. So it's got a lot of different tweaks to your end performance. But if I just show you it turned on and off, you'll see that it makes a big difference to the sound. Now on its own, that might not sound great compared to that. But when all the elements in the mix, with the drums, with the bass and everything else, what this does is it pulls it all together and scrunches it together and makes it sound like one cohesive unit. So very nice little program, and then just a limiter on top of that again. So yeah, there you go. Hopefully that's been useful. I don't know how long I've gone on for. Hopefully not gone on too much for you, and it's been useful that you can get an idea how I got to my tone. As I say, don't just copy my tone. Use this video as a way to start understanding how I got to my tone and how you're going to get to your tone as well. And just fiddle about with it, guys. Have fun with it. It's all about having fun. But make sure as well, before you do give up on your tone and say, no, this one's no good, do a little recording like I've done here, just a quick 8-bar riff, and double track it, quadruple track it if need be, and hear how it sounds. Because if you're just listening, as I say, to this, you might think, nah, that's never going to sound any good in a mix. And then it can sound like that with just a few tweaks. So there you go, guys. Hope that was useful for you. Thanks for sticking around to the end. See you, bye.